So, all right, here we go. Keep going on the right angle cross of the Maya with the 2-4 profile. The 2-4. When you have a 2-4, how difficult is it for 2-4 to go through the first process of study in order to be able to have a firm grounding in the detail? And most twos are distorted in their upbringing because they're expected to be ones. Here's a classic example of the natural. Now, the natural is going to find their own detail. Not only that, the natural is going to create Maya. If you pull the 2-4 out of its cave, don't be surprised it brings new words with it. It's one of the most interesting things about the Maya. The Maya is built on words. It's built on sound formula. When I was sitting under a tree all by myself in 1987, I had a personality crystal, design crystal in my head. It was not in the Maya. It wasn't in the Maya at all. It was in my illusion. It was my personal, very intense little Maya. But I had nothing to do with the Maya. I wasn't in the world. I didn't matter what I was in me. I wasn't in the world. And you can tell it's in the world because people who know these words. All of a sudden, the words have density. All of a sudden, words have density because they are supported by detail. And the detail adds to the density of the Maya. And you go on and on and on. This is part of the process of bringing any theoretical information into implementation and into the reality. And so much of it is done in communication. The 60-second gate and the 56th gate are clearly purely communicative gates. These are language skills. So one of the things about a 2-4 is that you may not have that direction as a parent to force them into some kind of deep study. But what you can do is take advantage of whatever their natural gifts are, because they're going to have their natural gift. And that natural gift is that you really scratch that shyness barrier. You have a very powerful articulating force. In other words, you have somebody who has the ability to bring out the detail. Now remember, this is the 4 at the unconscious level. 4s are deeply influential. A 2-4 that finally decides to speak its mind will really get to the attention of people around it. One of the powers of the 2-4 when it's called out is that you know by meeting its aura that this is not a natural for it. And so therefore it must be really important and very, really impressive and really something to accept being influenced by. All of the twos, 2-4, 2-5, 5-2, 6-2, relatively to the sun in the 62, all of them are going to be deeply concerned about their personal Maya, their relative Maya, the archetype of this 2-4, because of the nature of the real hermit quality of the 2-4, the internal world has to be filled with detail. And one of the things that you can get to see about 2-4s on this cross is you're going to see clutter. One of the funny things that I've ever seen is how many 1762s I know who are the most disorganized people I've ever met. And yet they're organized in another way. A friend of human design who just had a very serious accident in Munich, Wolfgang Schubert, I hope he's going to recover, do all right. He's a 1762. And I can remember the first time I went into his apartment in Munich and I walked into what he called his office. And I've never seen anything like that in my whole life. I'm just a 62, no 17. For me, orders everything. I walk into this office and there's stuff everywhere. You talk about a desk, you would have to dig for half an hour through paper to get to the surface of the desk. There was so much stuff on this desk, you could only see half of the computer screen. He wanted to show me something and he's going to like this. And the amazing thing in all of that, of what approach to be all relative. What appeared to me is that the hopeless, miserable, intense, dysfunctional goo, he could find anything in it. When you look at the twos with the sun in 62, what you will notice about them is clutter. And of course, if you're a paid parent, that can be infuriating. However, they do not where everything is. You have their own detail system. Now that makes them very interesting. It makes them interesting because they are the kinds of people that can find things in different ways, can discover facts in different ways, and can see the hidden details underneath the surface clutter. In other words, there's a tremendous potential in all of that. But if you look at the surface and you keep on screaming at this child, clean up your room, how can you find anything? But I can. Unfortunately for children, these are many things that are hidden in the pile that you really need to take care of. Food. You don't want the eggs. My little son, we discovered some food that he had placed very constrictively under his bed. But there are armies of ants roving through. You obviously have to pay some attention, but to break that kind of non-linear, this is the organization in a way. There's another mythology that is possible out of that. It's the same thing with the Maya words. I love words. Language is such a trip. It's so magical that think about what a dog hears when he hears humans. They don't know what the hell's going on. It's all relative, after all. They don't have any neocortex. They're not going to reflect on the nuances that are too there. They're into tonal streams and respond to tonal streams. You can say to a dog, I'm now going to take you out the knife and cut your little throat, and they come up wagging your tail. The mystery of what we do with this language. Language is really incredible. And one of the things that we do is the language is that we make clutter on the surface because the real meaning is underneath. One of the great things of language is the double entendre. You say one thing, but you're really saying another. All of this is a two business. The two four says something to you and it opens up a whole can of worms because you think they said something else. Well, maybe they did. Did they mean to say in that way? Were they trying to tell me something? This whole business about you never really get to the whole story from somebody. This is the influence of the two. The sneaky details, the details underneath, the ones that just go through biting, just go biting in, break through the barrier and hit you. Obviously, there's a lot of positive dimensions to that because there's so much detail that is hidden. There just is. If you look at these modern encryption systems and what anti-terrorist internet sluggers have to do with that piece to gather thousands of bits and unconsciousness, and come up with some kind of recognizable formula that they're just about to blow up your kitchen. The 2-5. The most interesting thing about the 2-5 right angle cross of Maya is in this particular case is that it's really on one of those kill the Buddha archetypes because they truly can understand things and have details they can share with one another. They can go to their grave with stuff like that. Paranoia is a great teacher. If you grow up with a 5 in your profile and you don't end up being too fucked up, you will discover that paranoia is a great teacher because you're paranoid for nothing. You're not born to be a certain way for nothing. It's not like, okay, be paranoid all your life, but there's nothing to be paranoid about. That's sick. If someone puts a gun in your hand, sooner or later you're going to use it. If you're giving paranoia, sooner or later you're going to appreciate it. One of the interesting things about paranoia is that the paranoia, because it's transpersonal, the paranoia is not only what do they want, but do I owe them anything? Is there something in that whole connection that perhaps I better, yeah, maybe I could there? Is the paranoid about what happened before? And it's not unconscious, it's in a few of us. It's not the kind of thing that you're actually thinking that way. This is all about the way in which the aura works. The one thing about it is that that kind of paranoia leads to a great deal of understanding about the psychology of human. You begin to understand something very basic about people, is that whenever anybody is moving towards you, they want something. It doesn't take a genius to figure that out. This is choiceless as well. You're on a world geometry towards something. You're going to bump into it. There is a purpose in that. And the 5 recognize that right away. 5 understand that it's going to have to deal with things moving in its direction. So it's try to figure out what to do with them. Can I slow to them off? Do I actually have to deal with them? And do I have to deal with them? How can I deal with them so that they can bid me back? How can I deal with them given the practical whatever? So one of the things about the 2-5 is that the 2-5 is the hidden master. This is a woman with an ordinary life. She could be mother with kids or whatever, but there are other people in her life, very few, but there who have an ability to break down the barrier so that they can be intimate in a sense with her, and she is the one that can provide them with a real understanding. Whenever you see a neighborhood, you're always going to see there's always a yin and a yang guru in any neighborhood. Always. There's always that woman that another woman will go to looking for some kind of guidance. And the same thing with the men. But it's different though. Men are never that obvious in their neediness because it reduces their sense of potential effectiveness. There's nothing worse than a needy male, even though males are needy. It's like there's nothing wrong with this shape. I was shocked when I came to the island. I never met so many yin men in all my life. I wasn't used to that. These soft, squishy follow behind their woman men. Very strange. Anyway, 2-5s can be very special in that sense, like the 2-4. They know the detail that others don't know because they don't approach their formula. Remember that the detail that the ones learn are details that have been constructed by the collective already. It's not like they're learning anything new in the detail. That's what makes the 2s different, because they don't have the same relationships to form a pattern structure. There's a tendency for them to come up with a natural pattern. Natural patterns that are not easily grasped by the traditional structure. And in that, they're able to meet the different kinds of details, to be able to look inside. It's like these crazy characters that wrote computer programs in order to take all the words in the Bible and look for some kind of pattern. Well, I want to tell you, you can find patterns in anything. It's all fractals. However, it's interesting what you get, if you know what I mean. It's like the games. I play with anagrams. It's like I like to take an anagram seriously. But then again, I don't take it not seriously. It's just interesting. Formulas are interesting. If you're 62, you're always playing the formula game. So what you see in the twos is that there's always the possibility that they can be called out, because what they discover naturally as a pattern, as understanding, as detail, and the gift is to articulate it, can be very valuable for others. The 4 for the close community, and the 5 as a unifying principle. Okay, nice.